Aloha. Welcome to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Kūlia Grant Solicitation Orientation. My name is Maile Lu'uai. I am the grants manager here at the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. Here are the most important dates that you have, and this is in your solicitation. Of course, the most important date for you is the application deadline, and that is right around the corner on Friday, April 16th at 2 p.m. Now, for this solicitation and any application questions that you may have, please email us at grantsinfo@oha.org. We are here to support you through this process and here to answer any question that you may have. The grant award period for the Kūlia grant is 1 year. So make sure when you are writing your application, the projects that you are proposing can be completed within 1 year. The overall grant amount that we have available is $500,000. For this grant solicitation, our funding restrictions are a minimum of $25,000 to a maximum of $100,000. So make sure when you input your numbers, either you have a minimum of 25 or a maximum of $100,000 to be eligible for this award. Now, please know, all of you who have received or have been a fiscal sponsor for at least 2 or more of our fiscal year 2021 programmatic grants are not eligible to receive this grant. Of course, if you had an Ahuhui event grant, if you were a sponsor or had one of our Ahuhui event grants, this does not apply to you. If you have received or you serve as a fiscal sponsor for our fiscal biennium 2021 community grant, you are also ineligible to receive this grant. If you have any questions regarding this restriction, please contact us and we will work with you. Match funding is required by this application. So we require a 10% cash match amount. In-kind services is not acceptable. Your match funding must be cash match. The grant purpose, of course, for our Kūlia grant solicitation is we are looking for nonprofit organizations that have programs that are designed to improve the lives of our lahui in alignment with our 2020-2035 strategic plan. We do have reporting requirements, so know that if you are awarded this Kūlia grant, you are going to be required to submit quarterly reports. Our reporting is all electronic. We make it really easy for you. All our reports are available for you on our OHA Grants portal. Our quarterly grant reports include a progress report, an expenditure report, invoices, and an assurance of benefit to Native Hawaiians. We do conduct on-site or virtual monitoring visits. It depends on where COVID is when your grant is implemented. Right now, all our on-site visits are virtual, and those monitoring activities that we do conduct, we interview staff, participants, we look at your case record keeping, we do a sampling review of your project files, and we look at an invoice and document testing against your internal control supports. So the bottom line is be prepared to have all your grant documents ready for review. If you have subcontractors, make sure you have your subcontractor agreements. Make sure those agreements are completed and signed. Make sure any invoicing from your contractors matches your subcontractor agreements. Make sure your payroll records are in order. Also make sure that for every expenditure out of our OHA grant funds has a receipt. because we do that with our document testing. We look at all of those types of documents. If you are awarded a grant, we also make it easier for you. We do not do paper checks. We pay you via our automated clearinghouse payment system. So if you are awarded a grant, we provide you information to help set up your ACH payment process, where when you receive a quarterly payment, it goes directly into your bank account. Method of payment, of course, for our Kūlia grants is cost reimbursement. For compensation, your initial payment is made when your contract is executed. That initial payment helps to serve as a startup cost for your grant for the first quarter. Of course, that initial payment upon contract execution also requires an invoice and a current certificate of liability insurance with the required state coverages. We also require a grantee press release announcing the award. Subsequent payments after the initial payments are based on the review and approval of your required reports, and we do retain up to 10% of the total amount awarded as a final payment. Our OHA Grants portal. If you don't already have an OHA Grants portal account, you need to set one up in order to apply for this grant. You can access the grant portal through our OHA Grants page. Take a look at our OHA Grants page, click on the link, and you can go in and set up an account for your organization. We do have tutorials available on our grants page, and we also have someone available to help you through this process if you are having difficulty. So just email us if you need that support. For our solicitation and application, of course, if you haven't accessed that via our OHA Grants page yet, you can download the solicitation, and you can also click on a link to begin the application process. Application instructions are in the solicitation. We do have required forms and supporting documents that must be uploaded. Please make sure you get these documents uploaded. You may be deemed ineligible if you do not upload a completed required form, and we will talk about that later. Uploads have size limits. It's never been a problem so far with any of our applicants, but you should know that we do have size limits for our uploads. A response is required for each question in the application. So if an item does not apply to you, please answer with not applicable or NA. You will not be able to submit your application if you do not have a response in every application question. Application questions also have application answer areas also have character limits. That again has never been a problem for any one of our applicants. You can only submit one online application for this solicitation. And it is also advised that you review the online application for accuracy before you submit. Of course, once you submit your application, it is locked in the system. If you print it out after you submit it and realize that you haven't uploaded the correct forms, or you want to change an answer, just let us know and we will unlock the site for you so you can go back in and revise your application. There are two phases of the application process, phase 1 and phase 2, of course. And so I'll walk you through phase 1 of the application process right now. This is our application scoring system for this specific Kūlia grant. And so when we walk through the application questions, you'll see how this is aligned. This is the evaluation criteria that our grant reviewers use. We use all external grant evaluators to review our applications to ensure that our process is pono, that it is fair for everyone who applies. Let's start your application. So the first part of your application is basic information. It's not worth any points, but this is basic information that we need. Of course, very easy, your organization name. If you have a fiscal sponsor, please name your fiscal sponsor, the name of your project, the purpose statement for your project, the number of Native Hawaiians that you will be serving, your island location, indicate all of the islands that apply. If you're doing Molokai and Maui, you can check off Molokai and Maui. If you're doing a statewide program for all islands, please check all islands. Please just check the island that you will be, your project will be serving. Of course, the amount requested, put the amount you are requesting. Once again, the minimum amount is $25,000. The maximum amount is $100,000. Also add your project contacts. Make sure whoever is your project contact is somebody who is responsible and reliable for the communications coming from the Office of Hawaiian Affairs to your organization. Also put your authorized signatory who has signing authority over your legal and financial agreements for your organization. Litigation, we want to know if you are your organization is currently ongoing, has an ongoing litigation. We also want the names of your governing board and your executive team. List all of your governing board and executive team members. If you have a fiscal sponsor, we need the governing board and executive team of your fiscal sponsor. And you as the applicant, we also need the names of your governing board and executive team from the applicant organization. Licenses and permits, this is a certification that you will secure the licenses and permits if required for the project as proposed. We also need a certification that you have sufficient funds available to help support the project to ensure that it is a success. COVID-19 preparedness and response plan. If you are awarded, we do require that you develop and implement a COVID-19 preparedness and response plan. Most organizations already have one, but if you don't, we require one. And this plan must be made immediately available to us upon request. We want to protect not only your staff, but any other Native Hawaiian participants that will be engaged in your program. Now, here's the real important stuff, because this is where a lot of applications get denied, is because you do not have your required documents. In order to move your application to evaluation to our grant reviewers, we do an eligibility checklist. And the eligibility, and included in that is your required documents. So the first required document that you need to upload is your IRS letter of determination. Now, if you're using a fiscal sponsor, we need your fiscal sponsor's IRS letter of determination. If you're not using a fiscal sponsor, please upload your own IRS letter of determination. Now, if your organization does not have an IRS letter of determination, please go find a fiscal sponsor that does. The next item that you would need that is required to be uploaded is your certificate of vendor compliance, your CVC. If you look at the solicitation, it has the information on how to access and secure a CVC. That CVC must say that you are compliant. And so once again, if you're using a fiscal sponsor, we only need your fiscal sponsor CVC. If you're not using a fiscal sponsor, we need your CVC. Now, once again, if your CVC is not compliant, you may want to find a fiscal sponsor. Well, you will have to find a fiscal sponsor. Now, make sure that CVC is current within 3 months of the application. If you're using a fiscal sponsor, we also need the fiscal sponsor certification form. This is required. Other required documents, we need you to complete your application authorization form. We need a board governance certification form, and this is from you, the applicant. We need a sponsored organization certification form. So if you're using a fiscal sponsor, the applicant must submit this. We also need your current certificate of liability insurance. Please upload it. Now, if your organization does not have one, submit a letter from your organization explaining why. Some organizations only get liability insurance when they have ongoing programs. And so it is understandable that your organization may not currently have a current certificate of liability insurance, but we still need a letter from you explaining to us why you currently don't have a certificate of liability insurance. So those are the required documents. They are very, very important. I highly recommend that you start pulling your documents together today, because you need to go look up your CVC. If it's not compliant, you're going to have to find a fiscal sponsor that not only has a IRS letter of determination, you're also going to have that fiscal sponsor will have to have a compliant CVC. So do that today. Now let's start with the questions that are in the application that you will be answering. The first question is regarding background and capacity, and you should all get the 10 points. If you have a strong, solid organization, you should definitely hit the 10 points with this question. Describe to the grant reviewers your mission, your governing structure, provide funding, prior funding experience. So the grant reviewers can see that your organization has the capacity to implement the project that you are proposing. Identify and provide information regarding prior sources of funding. You can list it out if you've had prior federal grants, state grants, city and county, private foundation grants. Please list those. And also, if you had prior OHA funding within the last 3 years, please list that for the grant reviewers too. This is all about organizational capacity. Also, under background and capacity, you need to identify everyone who is going to be dedicated to your project, include their description of their duties and their qualifications, as well as if they're going to be FTE. If you're using consultants, identify who your consultants are going to be. Provide a justification. When I was doing a lot of grants, I really used to like using consultants. Very easy to hire and use people who have specific types of expertise to help implement a grant. And so if you are using consultants, just provide a justification so the grant reviewers know why you're using a consultant, and then provide what their contracted duties and responsibilities are going to be. And please do not upload job descriptions or resumes. The next question is an experience question. So in this question, we are asking you to demonstrate to the grant reviewers your meaningful prior experience in providing the services or program that you are proposing in your application. State the number of years that you have been providing these types of services. If you've done projects, please list those projects with the dates of service. And if you're using a consultant and they're bringing in their own experience, please include that in this experience question. Now this question, the next question, this question was created to help support and elevate our nonprofit organizations that are dedicated and primarily serve our Native Hawaiian community. So this question, either you're going to get 0 points or 10 points. So in this question, what you need to do, and you should know whether or not your client or participant base is comprised of 50% or more of Native Hawaiians. So if you can demonstrate that your current primary and client participant base is comprised of 50% or more Native Hawaiians, and provide sufficient information and data to the grant reviewers on how you derive that percentage, then you will be awarded 10 points. And of course, you know, we know many of organizations in our community that can easily get the 10 points in these questions. If you have a homestead association, there are a lot of nonprofits where their primary client or participant base is Native Hawaiian. And so you need to demonstrate that to the grant reviewers. We are talking about your overall client and participant base. So if you only have some programs, your organization has some programs that specifically serve Native Hawaiians, this isn't what this question is asking. This question is regarding your organization's, not a specific program, your organization's current primary client and participant base. The next question is a needs assessment and project impact question, question that is in pretty much every grant application that you apply for. It's worth a lot of points. It's worth 10 points. So what you want to show the grant reviewer is that you have clearly demonstrated that the target Native Hawaiian population that you are going to be serving through your project has a need or a demand for the project. You want to also include, again, the total of Native Hawaiian individuals that you're going to be serving. And you also want to clearly demonstrate that your project will have a significant impact on that Native Hawaiian community that you plan to serve through your project. Project design is a huge one. It's worth 15 points. You really, really want to work hard on this question. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little hint. Before I do a project design type of question, I usually do my project plan first. So this is my big hint for you. Do your project plan first. Your project plan is worth a lot of points, 10 points. And we provide a worksheet. There's a worksheet that you can complete. And what you want to do is do your project plan first, because for me, my project plan is my outline for my entire grant. So you can show the reviewers from the beginning all the way to the end of your grant what your objectives are going to be at each stage of your 1-year grant period, what activities are going to be completed, what are the timeframes, and who is the staff responsible. Now, if it's going to be a consultant, just put that information in here. So I highly recommend that you do this detailed project plan first, because then go back and do this big 15-point question on project design. Because once you have your project plan, what you will do is from your project plan, you can create the narrative to show the grant reviewers your comprehensive and a complete picture of your total project. Now, of course, under project design, we also require that you provide a detailed list of your proposed scope of services for each service activity in detail. Now, if you have your project plan, well done. You should be able to build your project design narrative easily. And of course, I've already talked about the project plan. Now remember, do that first before project design. The next question, of course, is outreach strategies and collaborations, worth 5 points. Now here, and don't panic if you don't have any collaborations. We do understand that some projects may not use collaborative partners, and that's fine. I do grants in my community, and we don't always have collaborations. It depends on what the project is. So, the first thing you want to do is provide your outreach strategies to show the grant reviewers how you're going to reach out to our Native Hawaiian community. And so I just realized that we have to change up this slide. When you download the PowerPoint, I'll modify this slide for you because you're not really reaching out to Native Hawaiian community members impacted by COVID-19. So we will modify the slide for you. Your outreach strategy, we want to see, you want to show the grant reviewers how you're going to reach out to the Native Hawaiian community members so they can participate in your program. Then if you do have collaborative partners, you want to demonstrate your ability to collaborate with other organizations. And you also want to include those letters of commitment from each collaborating organization. Now, like I said before, don't panic. If you don't have collaborative partners, just let the grant reviewers know why. There are projects where you don't need to have collaborative partners. You have enough expertise within your own community. You have enough people on your team to make sure that your project is successful. So you're not going to be working with collaborative partners. So just let the grant reviewers know why. But your outreach strategies are very, very important. Evaluation is a next big question. And this question has a couple of parts in it. So I kind of broke it out so it's not confusing for you. So evaluation, of course, is worth 10 points. Quality assurance is basically you telling us that you have enough people and a strong team in place that if someone leaves, if your project director is sick, or if your intake specialist is sick, you can still continue this project without delay. There will be no hiccups in the implementation of this project. We've had projects in the past where they complain that they can't hire people. So, there's like a 2 or 3 month delay in serving the community. And that's actually unacceptable. So, we want you to show us that you have a strong team in place. So if anyone gets sick or anyone leaves your team for another opportunity, that you can still implement your project without delay. Another component of this evaluation question is outputs and outcomes. So we do want you to provide a narrative on how you are going to track and document participant files and project records. What kind of evaluation tools you have to ensure that you can meet your outputs and outcomes, and you can monitor your project performance. Really important here, we want you to describe what are you going to be considering your project success and how is that going to be measured. We also want you to describe for the grant reviewers what evidence or documentation will be used to verify your project accomplishments. So those are your narratives, is your narrative component for this question. The third component is your performance measurement table. And I would just take you to the table. But we do have some outputs that are required, so I will walk you through those. But most of your outputs and outcomes are going to be dependent on the type of project that you are proposing. So what we're looking is your projected year-end targets. So these are the outputs that you will be completing, and complete those that are applicable. What are going to be your deliverables. We want to know what your number of Native Hawaiians are going to be participating in the project. I know we asked you multiple times, but we want that information again in your performance measurement table. We want to know how many Native Hawaiians do you anticipate that are going to be completing your project? Now, remember, our funding is for our Native Hawaiian community. Sometimes there are other people who end up participating in your project. For example, if you're proposing some type of after-school program in your Hawaiian community, and not all of the children who come to the after-school program are Native Hawaiian, you may want to include those individual participant counts here. But just remember, our funding and our focus is to serve our Native Hawaiian community. We also want to know your number of partners or collaborations, if that is applicable. And we want to know your outcomes. And so these outcomes are aligned with our new strategies. And so you will want to look at all of these outcomes and then determine which of these outcomes apply to your program. And I'll walk you through our strategic directions in a little bit. But this is for your outcomes. So take a look at the outcomes that we have provided that align with our strategic plan, and see which outcomes actually align with the project that you are proposing. So we have provided all of the possible outcomes for you. And and that is for you to complete. You are welcome to add additional outcomes. And you are also welcome to add additional information. You may want to do participant surveys. That's optional. And so you may want to include that in your performance measurement table. So all of this evaluation, the performance measurement table, and the narrative associated with the outputs and outcomes, and your quality assurance are all worth 10 points. So please, when you go through your application, step by step, go through each one of these areas and answer it the best you can. The next question in the application is your alignment, your project's alignment with our strategic plan. We just came out with a new strategic plan, 2020 to 2035. And so these are our strategic foundations under our new strategic plan. So we want you to demonstrate to the grant reviewers how your project is aligned with one or more of our strategic foundations. And so you don't get any more points if you align with more than one. So take a look at your project and see which one of our foundations you are aligned with. This should be an easy 10 points for you. So please really demonstrate your alignment, your project's alignment to our grant reviewers. The second question is your alignment with our strategic directions. And so under our new strategic plan, we have a lot of strategies that we are looking for you to align with. And we want you to demonstrate whether or not your project is aligned with one or more of our strategies. And I'll walk you through them. One of our strategic directions is educational pathways. And we have two strategies under education pathways. So take a look at your proposed project. Does it align with our education pathways? Does it align with strategic 1, or does it align with strategic 2? Strategy 2, I mean. Now remember, your project may align with one or more of our strategic directions. And so it may be an educational program that is somehow tied to culture. So, really take a look at all of the strategic directions that we have provided you in the solicitation, and educational pathways is one. Another strategic direction that your proposal may be aligned with is health outcomes. So take a look at your proposal. Are you aligned with health outcomes strategy 3? Or are you aligned with health outcome strategy 4? And once again, like I said, your proposal can be in alignment with one or more of our strategic directions. And just make sure you show the grant reviewers how that alignment lines up. Another strategic direction is quality housing. Are you aligned with strategy 5? Or are you aligned with strategy 6? And another strategic direction that we have is economic stability. Are you aligned with this strategic economic stability and any one of these strategies, strategy 7 or strategy 8? So like I said, your program can be aligned with one or more strategic direction. And so what we want you to do is, after you complete your narrative, we want you to tell us, what the percentage breakdown is. And I apologize, we do not have the our housing. Oh yes, we do. We have housing in here. But take a look at your solicitation, and I believe we include all of the strategic directions: economic stability, quality housing, health outcomes, and educational pathways in this answer. So take a look at that. This should include educational pathways, and just break out the percentage. Like I said, educational pathways should be up here. And so if part of your proposal is primarily educational pathways, but percentage of it is dealing with economic stability, break out that percentage for us here. And the PowerPoint that you receive will have that updated information in it. But look at your solicitation. Now, if you, I know that we have told you that you can pick one or more of our strategic directions, but what we also want you to tell us is what is the primary strategic direction that your grant is going to be serving? Is it educational pathways, health outcomes, quality housing, or economic stability? And the reason we're asking this is primarily for really for data collection, and also for us to be able to categorize when we do awards, conduct the award process, categorize your grant. So out of all of these strategic directions, choose the primary strategic direction that your proposal is aligned with: educational pathways, health outcomes, quality housing, or economic stability. And the last and final question, of course, is budget. So budget is worth 5 points. And when you do your budget, the grant reviewers can't call you up if they have questions or concerns. So make sure your budget is really clear. And we do provide a section for you where you can comment. So that area, please do budget justifications. If you're breaking out your personnel, let us know, let the grant reviewers know what you're paying for. You have a project director, you have an assistant project director, break out those costs in your budget. If there's travel in your budget, please include a justification. Who's going to travel, why they're going to travel. If people are having meetings, we all do Zoom meetings now. So if you are doing travel, you definitely need a justification in there, and show that to the grant reviewers. So make sure that your costs and your line items make sure you include narrative justifications so the grant reviewers can see what your budget is really about. Of course, we do have the cash match funding amount. So make sure the cash match that is in your budget comes from federal, state, county, or private funds. And like I said, it must be a cash match. It cannot be from another OHA grant that you may have, and it cannot be in-kind services. And so make sure you have your 10% cash match in your budget. Another part of this 5-point question is accounting management. And here you want to demonstrate to the grant reviewers that you have accounting systems and procedures in place to ensure that if you are awarded this grant, you can effectively monitor the funding and administer the funding. If you don't have dedicated staff, explain to the grant reviewer what finance accounting systems you have in place and who in your organization administers and oversees that funding. For some organizations, if you have an association, it may be your treasurer. So provide that information in there for the grant reviewers. Of course, we have disallowed costs, so make sure that you do not have any disallowed costs in your budget. And so here are the disallowed costs. It is also in your solicitation. Now, like I said before, in-state travel is allowed, but make sure it's justified and reasonable. If you are purchasing equipment, you definitely have to justify that because this is only a 1-year grant. So put a justification on why that equipment is going to be purchased and how that is going to be used to ensure that your program is successful. Now that was your application. That was phase 1. Phase 2 is what it happens after you submit your applications to us. First of all, we conduct an eligibility review to make sure that you have uploaded all your required documents and those documents are complete. So make sure you double check those documents because we've received a lot of applications in the last several months that had expired CVCs. They uploaded blank certification form that were not signed. And they uploaded the wrong documents to their IRS as their IRS determination letter, or they uploaded the same document twice and they didn't check. And so those applications were deemed ineligible and we do not move those applications forward to review. So please, like I said earlier, start your application today, pull your required documentation together. And get that as soon as you set up your account, start your application and upload those documents today. Make sure they're in, double check them. You don't want to spend all this time writing an application just to have your application be denied because you have not uploaded the completed required documents. But once we review your application for eligibility, and if you have uploaded all of your required documents, we do move your application through our evaluation process. We do have external reviewers who receive training from us. We do also do conflicts of interest processes with them to ensure that they have no conflicts of interest regarding the applications that they are reviewing. And then those external reviewers, like here, I call them an evaluation committee, but those external reviewers, what we do is the applications that have the highest scores reviewed by our external reviewers are subject to recommendation for award. And so we take the highest scored applications and the grants program creates a recommendation memo to the trustees. And then we go before a joint committee of trustees with our recommendations. And if the trustees approve at that committee, then we go to a full board, the full BOT. And upon recommendation, and with the same recommendations. If the full BOT approves, the day of that meeting, we actually will contact you. You will receive an email. And that's why I told you your primary contact is very important, because whoever your primary contact is for this grant will be receiving your email the day that we go to the BOT. Either you will be sent an email that you will be receiving an award, or you will be receiving an email that you were not recommended for award. And once that's done, of course, we will be contacting you and we will start our contracting process. So remember, the most important date is our application deadline, which is Friday, April 16th, and at 2 o'clock. Please start your application now. Don't wait till the last day. We see a lot of people scrambling, and they make those big mistakes if they're trying to get everything uploaded on the last day. Like I said, if you don't have those required documents, we don't move you to the evaluation process. So start today. Don't wait. Get your required documents in order and start working on your application. Check and double check all of your answers. Now, please don't call our offices. It takes a while for the grants program to get a phone call from you. And so the best way to reach us is through email. So please email us. Now, if you do need a phone call, just email us that you want to talk to us. I mean, when somebody sends us an email and they say that they want to discuss something, want to have a conversation regarding what they see in the application, we definitely will call you up. But the way to reach us is through our grantsinfo@oha.org. If you need a phone call, we don't hesitate. We definitely will call you back. If you have problems with the OHA Grants portal, please email grantsadmin@oha.org, and we will have our technical extraordinary specialists contact you, and she will help you and make sure any problems you're having with our grants portal is resolved. Anyway, good luck on your application. We look forward to seeing, we love our Kūlia grants program, and we are really looking forward to seeing what you are going to be proposing and how you are going to be serving our lahui. Mahalo and good luck with your applications.